Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Does nobody want to be seen today?
I overslept.
Oh, okay. A bad hair day?
The worst one.
Worse? Okay. Paused while we were waiting for people. I just got it started now. So Becca Bunce is here from Great America, and we didn't even have time last time to give her a big thank you. So I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, and we'll give her a clapping warm welcome.
Thank you. I heard the clapping.
Okay,
so happy to
okay.
be here.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So anyway, we'll just get going. And again, there's lots of great information in this. And thank you so much, Becca, for joining us today. And away we go.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.
All right. So just to introduce myself and Great America, my name is Rebecca Bunce. I have been with Great America now almost 16 years. I currently am a member of us in that team. When I started at Great America, I started in account support, which is the equivalent of customer service, and I've held a variety of roles throughout the organization. The longest stint I had was in our asset management team, where I did some collections, asset management, and then led that team for a number of years. While I was leading the team, I went back to school and earned my degree from Mount Mercy as a non-traditional student, students at Mount Mercy. So again, thank you for having me. I want to give you a little bit of information here about Great America so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So Great America was started in 1992, and we are still family owned. And the majority owners are the family of Tony Golovic, which is our founder. Tony, you'll see there in the green button-up shirt, passing out paychecks and giving high fives. So that is something that in our 27 plus years, we have always had paychecks handed out until the coronavirus interrupted that just last week. So it is interesting how the virus has kind of impacted us all, and the different things that we kind of love and take for granted have been interrupted. But just like the video presentation today, we are adapting. So back to Tony. He grew up in Slovenia, which that was part of Yugoslavia, and that was part of the Soviet bloc during the Cold War. He immigrated to the United States when he was in high school, and he didn't speak any English. His first job was working cleaning out boilers in the boiler room of a sub-basement of a very large apartment complex in Chicago. And Tony, ever the optimistic, thought, what a great country this is, where he could come in not speaking a lick of English and get a great job and be able to provide for his family. So during that time, he worked during the day, and he obtained a college degree as a non-traditional student going to school at night. At that time, this brilliant man and one of his professors saw a lot of potential in Tony and encouraged him to apply to the University of Chicago. He resisted, but eventually he went and he obtained his MBA. So that is really something that's been instilled in Great America's culture, is that recognizing the potential in the team members and then encouraging our team members to learn and grow and develop and kind of step out of the comfort zone and try new things. So he was recruited to a regional bank. It was Mellon Bank back then, which eventually became GE. And during this time, he saw the corporate world. He saw the turnover. He saw the layoffs. Even when people were doing really well individually, he did not enjoy the politics that went along with that corporate environment, and he decided to finally pursue his dream of creating his own company, where really the goal was to do the right thing for the customer, the right thing for the employees. So his goal really was to build the best equipment finance company in the world. His goal wasn't to be the largest, it was just to be the best. And he wanted to build a place where people were given those same opportunities that he was provided when he first came to the United States. So that opportunity and that optimism, that's really embedded into our culture. All right, so you'll see a couple of different pictures here. The first one is our first 7 or 8 employees back in 1993, working out of a very small office space. And right below that, you'll see a picture of the Great America Building. And if you're not familiar with where we're at, you've probably seen that building driving by on 380. We're situated right in front of Black Sheep and kind of off to the side of the federal courthouse. So Tony had this vision of building this great company, and the drawing off to the right is kind of what he envisioned way back before he started the organization. So it is really fun to see how much we have grown from those first 7 or 8 employees to now over 600 people working at Great America. While we aren't located in our headquarters right now, we're all virtually working from home. We are still a fabulous community and a wonderful place to be. One other thing that I wanted to mention is we have locations that are in Minnesota, in the Marshall area, and Kennesaw, Georgia. So not all of us are located downtown Cedar Rapids. Something that's really unique about Great America, and something that I'm very proud of, is how the organization has grown since it began. You know, we virtually started as a startup back in 1992 with no assets. And we have, since that time, experienced year-over-year growth. Now, some questions that I get from finance students are, is this slide for real? Because as you'll notice, we crossed over a couple of pretty significant windows of time. We have the dot-com bubble in 2000, 2001, and we also have the Great Recession in 08, 9, and 10. And even through those challenging economic times, Great America has continued to enjoy pretty sizable, significant growth. That's really attributed to our lending practices, our credit philosophies. When times are great, we do not open up the floodgates and extend credit willy-nilly. We're very diligent and thoughtful in how we provide financing. And also in bad times, we don't really, we don't constrict, we don't blockade. We just put forth our philosophies. They're tried and true and tested, and we just stick to those. And that's really helped kind of fuel the growth of the organization, even during those challenging times. So what we do. Great America, at the core of what we do is we provide equipment financing to commercial entities, and our customer is the equipment vendor. Our typical vendor size is between 3 million to 15 million in originations or sales throughout the year. The profile of our dealer distributor, though, could be anywhere from 2 million in sales to 175 million. But again, that sweet spot's kind of in that $3 to $15 million range. So they sell equipment to commercial entities, and if they don't want to pay cash for that equipment, because some of the equipment can be rather sizable, or just it could be in a large volume, they might not have the cash on hand to purchase that equipment, and they might not want to take out a loan. So what Great America does is we come alongside the vendor, and we provide an alternative financing solution, sometimes in the form of a lease agreement, sometimes in the form of another type of loan or vehicle. So that is what Great America does. And now I want to shift gears a little bit and let's talk about you guys, right? So workplace expectations, that really comes down to making sure that you make the right choice when you are out there looking for a job. If you get the wrong fit, it's not going to be a great situation for you or the employer. So really it starts with you in that job search. So this is a wonderful time when you're in school to really understand what do you like, what do you not like, and to really kind of crisp up what you want to do and the kind of company that you want to work for. So understand what's important to you. Is culture important? Flexibility, maybe opportunities to learn and grow in your role. The organization that you work for or that you're exploring, understand, are they forward thinking? Do they share similar philosophies on social and environmental issues as you? Do they value flexible work arrangements? Do they support a good work-life balance? So just understanding what you want and what's important to you will really help you kind of narrow down that job search. This is also a wonderful time for you to start building your own brand. So as you're out on social media, I want you to look through the last 20 posts that you've put out there on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, and understand, what does your profile and your messaging say about you? Are you a big partier? Are your post pictures of you with drinks in your hand? Every once in a while, that's okay, if you're legal, of course. But every other photo, probably not sending out the right message. Is every post that you have a selfie? If so, what does that say about you? Does it say that maybe I know this is going to sound harsh, but are you self-centered? Are you egocentric? That kind of thing. Or does what you post portray that you have the heart of a volunteer? This is, right now we're in a unique time and there's a lot of things going on where people can spread messages of hope and encouragement. There's lots of opportunities right now to get involved. So does your profile share that you're a volunteer, that you're willing to pitch in and help? Those kinds of things that we see on social media, that really does translate into the person that arrives on that first day of work. So send the right message on your social media pages. Another thing that you can start to do before the job search is to really develop and refine your personal stories. I recommend like 3 to 5 impactful stories that you have that you would share with a potential employer. It could be something like a group project at school. It could be something that you're really proud of at work. If you're a student athlete, it could be a time when you rallied the team behind you. Just those really good stories that share not only what you can do, but who you are as a person. So again, another call to action there is start to develop those stories for yourself. It's really helpful to have those kind of off the shelf that you can just pull down when you're in an interview, rather than coming up with answers on the spot to some of those questions. The next thing that you're going to want to do in the job search is research the organizations. Okay, I touched a little bit about reflecting. Now it's time to figure out what the organizations that you're looking at applying to, do they really align well with your values and your goals? And there's lots of information out on the web. You can hop out to their websites, check out their career pages. You can find a lot out there. All right, so I want to touch on the resume, cover letter, application, interview, and offers. So I know you'll probably get a lot of information about resume creation through career services and other classes that you'll take there at Mount Mercy. But I like to give the perspective from someone who's receiving resumes day in and day out. So first thing, it sounds really basic, but please put your name and your contact information on your resume. Especially when you go to career fairs, this is important because if you walk away and that information isn't on the resume, we don't know who to reach out to. And if you're a really great candidate and we think you're going to be a really great fit, it's so heartbreaking when we look down and we don't know who we just talked to. So be sure to add that. Education, just a couple of best practices there. Include the dates. If you haven't graduated yet, that's okay. Just go ahead and put anticipated graduation date of XYZ. Also, include your GPA, even if it isn't what you want it to be. And here's why. If you don't, we will guess. And if we guess, it's probably not going to be in your favor. So don't leave us wondering. Definitely put your GPA on there. Now, if it isn't where you want it and you have a story behind that, the cover letter is a wonderful place to add some more color around your GPA. I recommend chronological order. It's just a logical order, makes sense, starting with experiences that are most recent or current. Definitely add dates. When you add the dates, put at least the month and the year. If you just put years, we're going to assume that there's gaps in your employment history. When there are gaps, and there might not be for you right now as you're in school, but later on in life, you might take time off to travel. You might step away from your career to take care of children. Those are all perfectly acceptable and reasonable reasons to not be working. But explain those gaps, because if it isn't explained, again, we assume the worst, and it could just raise questions. So explain them in the resume or in the cover letter. Those are perfectly acceptable things to do. Activities, be intentional when you list activities and make sure that they really speak to skills that you've developed that help you become more prepared for a career. So if you've developed your leadership skills or teamwork skills within those activities, go ahead and list those. Don't just list the activities in a bullet style fashion. Add some meat underneath of it or on top of it to really explain what value or what you learned from that particular activity. Do edit your resume and your cover letter. Make sure that they are well written. You could be disqualified or moved to the undesirable pile if your resume has grammatical, spelling, punctuation errors. So don't do that to yourself. You've worked really hard. Make sure that your resume is in top-notch condition. Bullet or paragraph format on the resume facts, and I want them easy to read, and I want the most relevant at the top. Paragraphs, you kind of have to sift through the information. But if you have an experience that just needs more explaining, you could use a combination approach there. An objective, your resume really should build upon itself, and the objective should come through in the different experiences that you've had in the resume. However, if it doesn't, an objective is okay, but you could move that to the cover letter and really explain. I've seen it before where we'll get a cover letter and it mentions a different role or a different organization to the one that candidate is applying to. It's not a great first impression. It sends the message that they're not a detail-oriented individual. So don't send that message. Make sure that those align. Cover letters are a great opportunity for you to explain why you're interested or why you're really excited about the role and the things that you've done in your past that have really helped prepare you for that particular opportunity. All All right, so the interview. This is exciting stuff. And before we go into interviewing questions and what to do and what not to do, let's talk about what to wear. This is really important, and it can really unnerve some folks thinking about what they're going to wear to an interview. So what I like to say is dress comfortably and professionally. And if you are dressed in something that you are not comfortable in, no amount of acting is probably going to hide that fact. And then it just makes everyone in the interview uncomfortable. So dress in something that you feel confident in and you feel comfortable in. You will appreciate that as you're halfway through your interview. So for finance roles and sales roles, these are probably more formal. So you'll want to wear a suit or with a button-up shirt or a blouse with slacks and a skirt. If you are going for a finance or a sales role, I would recommend also closed-toed shoes. Just depending on where you're at, especially some banks, they don't allow open-toed shoes on the bank floor. So just dress to match their policies if you can figure that out ahead of time. Non-finance, non-sales roles, you can dress it down a little bit, but still have that button-up blouse, slack, skirt. You can put a jacket with this. What I recommend is kick it up a notch. The interview is a place where you can really bring your A game, where you want to stand out from other candidates. So if you have an opportunity to kick that attire up a little bit, go for it. What you don't want to do, though, is wear distracting or revealing clothing. So ladies, make sure that your skirts are below fingertip length. This is always an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it has to be said. You definitely want to keep the cleavage covered up. So raise the shirt, the collar, and lower the hemline of your skirt. Also, dress as professional as you can. Make sure that you're neat, your shirt's pressed and it's clean and it's conservative. As far as colors go, you want to stay pretty basic. Navy, brown, tan, beige, white, those are all great colors. If you are not basic, you can kick it up a notch with some accent colors. But again, you want to avoid being too flashy. So keep it tasteful, maybe in a scarf or a tie. You can add that pop of color. You also never know who you're going to be interviewing with and what sensitivities they have. So be really cautious about fragrances. I would just recommend avoiding them altogether. And I would also recommend, if you are a smoker, don't smoke at least an hour before your interview. As some people are just very sensitive to that smell, especially ex-smokers. They can sniff that out and it can be pretty uncomfortable. So just skip that and wait until you're all done. This is just a visual of business professional versus business casual. If you know that the office workplace is a business casual attire environment, I would still kick up that attire a notch for your interview. Again, you want to stand out in a good way. So if you have the opportunity to add a jacket, go for it. Speaking of jackets, here's just a little helpful tip. I am a sewer, and when I see these, it just stands out to me, and I just want to get my little scissors out and trim these. These are called tacks, and they're put in place by the manufacturer just to keep things in order and in place during shipping and while the items are on the rack. So when you get them home, these are things that you remove. You remove the tack along the sleeves and the back of your jacket that holds the slit in place. Along the shoulders, those are tack lines. Sometimes they'll hold, I can't remember what they hold in place there, but those come out, those white threads. And then the picture on the right, that's a that that is meant to come off of the sleeve. Ladies, on your skirts, you'll often see those X tacks in the back that hold the slit together. So that definitely needs to be removed. Just a helpful hint there from me to you. All right, so now let's talk about before the interview. We talked a little bit earlier about building your brand and researching the kinds of organizations that you want to work for. Now it's time to really go
Becca?
in depth to.
Becca,
Yeah,
just a warning, we've got 3.5 minutes left and then we'll need to go to part 2.
perfect.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Okay. All right, so before your interview, take a deep dive into that organization and research. One thing that will be very helpful to you in the interview is when you come in and you sit down and everyone does their introductions, you might be asked first thing, what do you know about our company XYZ? And it's going to be something that sets you apart from other candidates if you have a good wealth of knowledge on that organization. So understand their mission, their vision. What are their core values? What do they pride themselves in doing really well? Having some information about the key players in the organization is helpful too. And what are the opportunities? Man, if you can go into an interview and understand what their challenges and their opportunities are, and maybe an idea that you have yourself, holy smokes, that would be amazing to share that in the interview.
We still have 2 minutes left. Are you still able to be here, Becca? Okay, it looks like we
The
lost.
more comfortable you are in the interview, the more comfortable the interviewers will be in the interview right along with you. So feeling confident and rehearsed, but not too rehearsed where it comes off as a recording will be very helpful to you. One other thing that I wanted to mention there, and I'll probably stop it here, is know if there's anyone in that organization that you know and have a conversation with them. They can provide a little bit more insight into some of those bullet points above in this slide and give you some more color around that. All right, Deb, are we at a good point to stop here?
Yeah, I think we are. And students, just remember that I know somebody at almost every company in Cedar Rapids. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we will switch. We have just a minute left here. So we'll switch over to the part 2. It'll take just a minute to everybody to get there, and we'll go from there. So we'll see you back there in just a moment.
Perfect.